Hello, this is a video on the new version 6 upgrade. This is designed to show existing users some of the benefits and advantages of moving up to version 6. We've made well over 100 new feature improvements and actually added plenty of new features as well. So what we'll do in this video is kind of highlight some of the changes inside the system. Now, since there are so many changes, we definitely won't hit on everything, but I do want to show you some of the main highlights here in a fairly short video. So first, let's go ahead and dive in and show you some of the changes. So one of the things that you see here, this is the new home page of DTools 6, and we've got a menu here on the left that shows you some of the common functions that you would use here, such as getting started and managing the system. We also have access to all of our resources here, and we do have plenty of help videos for version 6, as well as bi-weekly webinars as well too that you can attend. The software you navigate here through a start menu at the top, so we'll drop down here, and we'll kind of hit on some of these today as we go through some of the changes here in version 6. One of the first places to kind of start, we can talk about the setup here. So we have just a new layout here for the setup called the control panel. So you can go in here inside the system to make changes. Some of the things that have really changed here is the users area is a little different. We've added actually some new permission rights here in the system. So some of those permission rights that are new are the ability to see things like view prices. So if you've ever wanted the ability to hide or disallow somebody to see pricing inside the system, that gives you the option to hide pricing details or price sensitive information. So that's a new permission right. There's a few others in there as well too. So there has been a few permission rights added to the list. So some changes there. We also have some other things too on the QuickBooks settings side of things, which we'll get to in just a bit for any of those users. We'll cover that towards the end of the video here inside the system. Now, if you are an existing user and moving up to version 6, we also do have a import utility. It's called a legacy import utility. So you can actually run that from within the system. You can access that from the start menu, also from the setup area here as well. Now, any of your existing data or settings would import in from version 5 directly into 6, so you would not have to duplicate any of that data. Now you would need to bring in your projects as well too. Those would be imported in singly or one at a time into the program, but those can all be brought in at any time. Version 6 too, by the way, does run side by side with version 5 or version 4 or any of its previous versions. So you do not have to uninstall, or this software version 6 does not overwrite an existing install. So you would have the ability to work simultaneously for a period of time as you transition over to the new version. So we've kind of covered the setup area here. Now we do have, next thing really is our catalog. So we'll show you some of the changes here. One thing that's changed here in the download area of the system is we did change out the way that you downloaded or access data here in the program. So when I click on a manufacturer here, for instance, we clearly show you all the details of the item. So in previous versions, you could only see the manufacturer model number. So it does make it a little easier to see the items. You can see the images, you can see descriptions, you can verify this is the correct product you want to download. It's also very clear which items are in your database or not. So matched are items that are there, new are items that are not. And you can also freely download just matched items or new items, or of course both. And you also have another feature here too that's new is the ability to see complete or proposal ready data. So sometimes products in our database do not have inputs and outputs or specs on the items, which is used for the drawing side. So those items would be marked that do not have that data as proposal ready, and then items that do have those details would be marked as complete. So that's another advantage as well too. So you can clearly see which ones have full detail or just the proposal ready detail inside the system. So this is it. And of course, any manufacturers that are partnered are still highlighted here. We have those in green now, and data description is available here in red. We've also expanded our library here in version 6. We've added over 1 million products through partnership with a third-party data provider. That's available here through the extended library. So this opens it up to, as I said, over 1 million products. pretty much everything imaginable is in here. So you can search this database and find additional data beyond the 1,000+ manufacturers that we already have available here inside the system. And of course, we now make it a little easier to request data as well too. So if something's missing that you need and you're on our program, just let us know. We'll build it for you. So that's how you download items. Now, items are downloaded to get stored into what we call the catalog now. So this is your product database. So we do organize those into 3 areas now. So you got products, labor, and packages. So products here. This is going to be your equipment here inside the system. So you can see all your products here. Now, there's a few things that we've added that's really nice as far as features go. Some of those here is we do have a quick filter, so just make it a little really easier to find stuff. You just kind of narrow down here by category or phase or manufacturer if you want to. The new feature though is queries. So this is a kind of a cool feature here. This is where you can kind of set up a predefined search. So a lot of people use this for setting up favorites, or if you've ever in your database had to go, let's say, okay, search for this item, and then you want to narrow down your results further. So anytime your search requires going 2 or 3 levels deep, you can actually build a query here inside the system, and that will allow you to quickly jump and just show those products available within that query. So when you're inside of a project, you can see yours as well as they're shared as well. So when you create one, you would have the ability to share that with all the other users on the dTools system at your company. So easy to do, just choose the field you want and you set up the rules here for that query or search and save it to the list. So that's a nice little helpful feature there. Mass update is also here too. So this allows you to mass update any information here in the database. So if you want to come in, so you can highlight multiple products here and you can choose to mass update selected items or all the items and choose which data you want to update. A new feature though that's really helping a lot of our users with version 6 is price rules. So what price rules does here for us, this actually allows us to set up predefined rules or formulas for changing pricing. So as you can see, we give you quite a few operations here. So you can actually, with this drop down here, pretty much lay this out any way you want. You can adjust pricing based off MSRP or your cost or selling prices. And you can also use this for source fields as well. So you get a little preview of what your formula looks like. So you can actually set these up by manufacturer, by vendor, however you want to do this, or specific margins you want to be set. And you can apply these price rules not only in your catalog, but also within a project as well. So that's another new feature here in version 6 that's pretty helpful. And some of our users too, for any of our international users that once they're doing conversion rates outside the system, this multiply percentage option now gives you that ability to basically essentially do an exchange rate using a percentage or formula there. So that's price rules here. Another big thing here that's a nice improvement to this is the ability to add accessories. Now, you could always add accessories in previous versions, but this now you can actually highlight multiple products and add accessories to all of those at one time. So this is a huge time saver. I can now come in here, I can apply accessories to all the items that I've selected. So if I wanted to, for instance, search down to my 42 to 52 inch LCDs or plasmas, and I can apply my preferred amount to all those items at one time. So, and before, you have to click through each item one at a time. And because that was time consuming, oftentimes people weren't utilizing that to its full capability. So this gives you that ability to mass update and assign accessories to your products. So another nice feature there. It's also easy to add items to packages as well. So I can highlight multiple products here inside of my catalog, and I can also do this within a project as well. So if I want to, I just select the items, hit add a new package. We can quickly create a package here inside the system, entitle it, put an image. One of the new features we've had based off request is groups. So you can now organize these packages into folders. So especially those of you that have a lot of packages, or if you work with builders or different types of commercial systems, you can go in there and set up those packages so they're nicely organized. You're not having to sift through hundreds or several of those packages in the system. So that's another great feature there, is package groups. So that's just some of the highlights here on the database side of things. Now, I did mention earlier that we did break out labor separately. So labor items are still done here in the system. We just organize it separately so you can quickly just look at and grab those items here in the database. And like I said, not much changed here. The layout just a little different, but you can still do fixed and variable, just like you can do with the version 5 and in the prior versions. So now that we've taken a look at the database, let's actually get into applying that information into a project. So I'm not going to go through all the details of setting up a new project. We do have a lot of changes that we've made to the new project wizard. Just kind of give you a quick run through of some of those changes. When you go through here, you'll see the ability to create clients here on the fly. That's another little minor improvement, but it has huge effects. If you've ever had to in version 5 or 4, you would go in there and you'd have to create a customer, and then you'd have to come back and create the project. So now, no more of that. You can create a new customer on the fly, import from Outlook and QuickBooks as well. And of course, you still have access to your drop down here. So you choose a name here. And then also project name can go here. You can still choose your price level for you're using for the project. Some of the things we've added though is you now have client numbers inside the client contact area that you can assign clients to, as well as you've now got a start and end date that you can set here for a project. There we go. So let's put in a project name there. So of course, billing aside address is here. Project resources is a new feature. So before you had this ability where you could go in and add up to 4 different roles here in the system. So now we've made this unlimited, so you can create as many of these as you want. And you can even now check availability for a person. So if you want to check, see somebody's available within a certain date range or time range, you can do that here. Here we go. We've got our additional contacts as the same as in prior versions. Scope of work still here as well. Now you can still insert snippets. What we've done with this though is we now give you the ability to assign snippet groups. So another way of organizing those and finding those a little easier, so you're not having to sift through a lot of those. So that's all there as well. Now snippets are actually used in more than just this area. So anytime that you see a large text box in our system, we've added the ability to use snippets. So they're not just for scopes of works anymore. We can give you that capability of adding those on the fly. Now, with setting up locations, in version 5, for instance, you have location types and location names as 2 separate windows. We just streamline that into one area, so you can quickly change your location layouts here and then also specify your rooms here as needed. And once again, you'll see the option for snippets is here as well too when you create a room. So you can just drop a snippet in here by room. Same thing too with systems. Now you may notice the term systems is different. It's normally referred to as zones in version 4 and 5, so we've kind of more aptly named this to systems. So you can still choose those here from a drop down. And once again, you also have your snippets and descriptions that you can drop in here for these as well. Contract percentages and also custom fields are also the same here. So that's all available there. So we'll go ahead and close this out. No need to save that. So once we've got a project here, let's go ahead and take a project that I already have open. Open this up. Now, one thing that's changed from a server side of things, when you create a project now in version 6, it immediately creates, when you create the project file, it actually imports that project into the server and then checks it back out all in a matter of a second or two. So you don't even really realize that it happens, but it does put a copy of the project on the server. So, if you ever had that issue where you create a project locally and it's not, never gets put onto the server for whatever reason, then that's going to be resolved here. So it does check that in for you. So this is called the project editor. So this is where you build your quote or estimate here in the system. Now you'll notice at first we've made quite a few changes here. We've gone to what's called a ribbon layout. So you can actually click on these different tabs here at the top. It shows you the relevant information. So we'll kind of talk a little bit about that here today in a moment. Your product database is still here. It's just sitting over here on the left-hand side as a slide-out window. So as I mentioned, products, labor, and package items are organized here differently. You can still see them in the tree format. So if you're used to using that tree layout, you can still go back to that layout here. We did add the option to do a grid, though. Some people may want to use this. You can see more detail on the items, as well as you can also put in quantities here next to the products. So if I want to add 2 items at once and different quantities of each, I could say, okay, we're going to add 4 of these, and we're going to add 2 of these. And what I could do is actually highlight both of these and actually add them both to the project at once. So kind of a neat feature there to kind of speed things up. Of course, you still have your tree layout here as well, so you can see it that way. So this little window here can be docked at any point. You can always move it manually wherever you want it to go. So the whole process is the same. We're still going to find our products. We're going to apply them to locations and systems. So with this, the search is also greatly improved. So like with previous versions, when you want to search for an item, you had to pick which fields you wanted to search on. So now this is more of a global search. So you can just type in whatever information that you want. I can type in the word amplifier, speaker, type in a model number, or even something that may be in the description. This will narrow down the results here for us. We just dive into a category here, choose our product, and now what we do is we over on the right can choose where it's going to go. So I could say this is going to be going in rack 1, part of our audio system, and then we can just simply drag and drop this into the project. And of course, accessories you'll still get reminded of as you add those here into the system. Now your quantity box is down here, so if you want to adjust your quantities of the equipment as you're adding them, you can do that. And what's nice about this too is the assign and add button here is now in what's called the drop zone. So when you're adding equipment, you can also drag it to the add box, which will do the same thing as I've just done there. The other benefit of that is if I need to add this piece of equipment to another location, what I can do here is just say, okay, this item is going to go in these three rooms as well. So instead of having to go back to my Explorer, I can actually just take what's already in the job or highlight multiple items and just hit add. And that immediately applies it to all the other locations. Also, if I make a mistake, the assign button's there, so I can also select the room that the item is supposed to be in and drag it to the assign box, and that will just reassign it to where it needs to go here. So everything's here in the grid. You've got different layouts here now that we have inside the system under the Layouts tab. We give you some predefined layouts, as well as you can still do your custom layouts that you're used to using, so that's no problem. And I'll kind of show you some of the different layouts and some of the new fields that are there as well. So of course you can still change your cost and price here, so that's all there. Now the mass update is here too. So we talked about earlier doing the mass update here on products or using price rules. So you still have those here. So I can actually highlight items. If I want to update the margin on everything at once just for this job, I could do that. I can also run price rules here as well from this. Now, some other things we've done too. Now, whenever you want to make a change, sometimes people come in here and they want to adjust pricing or equipment information, and you want to update that to your database. So if I come in here and change, let's say, change my price here to 3,500, maybe I want to set that as my new price. What's nice about this is anytime I'm updating to or from the catalog, it's going to bring up a little window showing you what's existing, what's being updated, and there's now an options window. So for a lot of people, this is going to solve some problems. So if you ever wanted to update just pricing but not update the price, not the description information, you can choose what you want to update now, which is kind of a nice little cool feature. So you can be selective on what you update from your catalog down to your project, or you can vice versa do from project up to your catalog. So you can be selective there and choose which fields you want to update. So it's another nice little feature improvement on that side of things. So we got this here. Now I mentioned layouts. There's different layouts here. So accounting layout is here. Now the QuickBooks interface is much improved as well too. So we'll kind of review that here towards the end of the video. But in this area in the accounting view, some of the new things that you can see is you can see the estimate number that the project or the equipment's assigned to in that project. So your estimate number would show here once it's exported. Also shows you the item number and vendor name over in QuickBooks. So that's all new detail you couldn't always see before. We've also added some additional fields to the system. Probably one of the most important to note here is order status and install. So we now have added fields for what I kind of consider project level inventory. So we still don't do full inventory, but you can actually track the status of a product within a job. So we've got order status, order number, order date, receive date, and of course you got your install and install date as well. So we have a tool for actually doing that pretty easily. So if I wanted to select all these items, go to my order status, and I can say, okay, the item has been ordered. And these lists, these views are actually, or statuses are actually customizable. We can assign an order number to this. We can assign a date on when the product was ordered. And of course, once we receive that, we can also mark it as received and put the date in there. So the receive thing can be very helpful to do. So if you're pulling a pick list for a job, you can quickly see which items are not in stock or which ones we haven't received yet. And then, obviously give us an alert to maybe we need to figure out what's going on with that particular item. So that's just some new fields there for 6 that makes things a little easier and helpful inside the system. Now, one other thing that we've done too is the way you run reports. So with version 6, we tried to eliminate you having to go in and out of several windows constantly to work on a project. So what we've done is we've created a report tab here inside the system. So you don't have to leave this area. You can just come over here and run your client reports. So you've got those all listed here, and you've still got your templates. Now, one of the things that we've changed here is the ability to do a theme. So right now in prior versions of the system, you have basically a template for the different styles or themes to choose from, even your own custom ones. So now we allow you to just toggle between themes here inside the system. And of course, we give you these samples here to start with. But what's really nice is the ability to add more in here. So if I want to create a new theme, I can title it. You can, of course, upload your own image for the header, and you can also do one for the group header here as well. So that's much easier. You don't have to even get into the report designer to do that. So it makes it a little faster and easier there. Of course, all your other installation reports are here as well too. We've added a few other reports like a rack specs report. So if you want to, you can now run things like a rack load report, shows you your weight and power ratings very easily. And that's also affected by the fact that you can now run reports based on filtered or selected items. So before you had to run the report and select a filter and choose your filter options. Now I can be very specific. I could highlight just 2 products here and run a report just on those items. So that's also how our rack load report works. You could just select those items within a particular location if you want to for that. We also, we know customizing reports has always been kind of a pain for some people to adjust and make changes. So we tried to add some additional reporting options here for you to make those changes right here in the user interface. So if you need to make an adjustment to any of the common descriptions here, if you want to change the term for labor, for tax, for product adjustment, you can come in here and type in text, and this will override that information. So that's all there for that. And some other things too, just kind of open this up here. So of course, now when you're inside of a project, there's a few additional fields that show up here. So you got your serial number and IP address. Now one of the things that we've added that is a new feature is non-billable. So this is for items that aren't necessarily owner furnished equipment, but let's say maybe the item is comes with a power supply. So it's a separate product altogether, but since it's included, you still may need to represent that on a drawing or an equipment list essentially. So you can mark an item now as non-billable. So that means it can be shown and included in the equipment list, but it's not going to be charged or reflected in the project. So that's also just kind of a new thing, similar to owner furnished equipment, but it's not furnished by the customer. It's something that it's just not being charged for inside the job. So that can also be set there on a product. So let's see here. I think we've covered some of the main highlights here. So of course you have all your report settings in here as well too, so you can quickly adjust those here. Now, like I said, what we'll do from here is we'll take what we've done here in the area and kind of move this over to the drawing side. I guess one other thing too, and I'm probably going to randomly come up with things that I completely forgot to show you that's important. One new feature too we've added recently is comments here. So if you ever like to log notes, you can say customer called, wants change, you can make log a note here, and this does show you the date, the user, the time, and the note. So you can keep a notes or comments history here inside the project as well. Another nice feature too, just kind of show you this, you can also set autosave features as well. So we've added that new feature. So where it says automatically save, you can set your time interval for this. So you can do as low as 3 minutes or higher. So this will actually save the project as you go. So if you ever had the issue where you've walked away and your battery died on your laptop or power went out or something happened to your machine, you can set this to automatically save at different intervals. So it's another nice feature here as well. So let's go ahead and close this out. move this down. Now, one thing I should note too about the database. So, right now in version 4 and 5, you have a database that sits on each client machine, and you have a database that sits on the server. So the issue with that is there was always issues of syncing. I have products on my machine, I forgot to sync up to the server, or I didn't sync from the server. So there's sometimes those mismatches of what products and pricing were on each database on each machine. So we've actually eliminated that by what we've done is actually taking the client databases off of each machine, and it's now just on the server. So when you're building a project, you're pulling from the same database as everyone else on the team. You're pulling from the server each time. So you never have to worry about, is my client database in sync? You are using the only database, which is from the server. Now you can still work offline. So that's often the question, what happens if we don't have a local database? How can I work outside the office? So we still do have the ability, if you go to Start, go to Connect, you can still work offline. What happens in that scenario is it does copy your server database. A read-only version of that database gets copied down to your client machine. So you can work offline freely, build a project, do what you need to, and then you come back, you can then sync up. So that's still there, but just normal operating, you're not going to have a database on your client machine. Now for Visio and AutoCAD, as you can see, the ribbon format kind of flows in here as well too. So we got Visio and AutoCAD here at the top. So what we're going to do is just kind of show you. Now on the drawing side, there's been a few changes in version 6 on Visio side. I won't go through every single detail, but I do want to show you some of the highlights of the new things that are pretty neat here in version 6 related to the drawing side. So we'll go ahead and open this up here. Now, some of this is true for AutoCAD as well too, so I kind of mentioned that as for any AutoCAD users as well. So we'll go ahead and open up our Visio interface. So here we go. Now, what we've done is we tried to optimize the software for dual monitor use or more. So if you are using 2 or more monitors, everything opens up now here as 2 separate windows. So you can just easily dock on one screen, have this docked on another. And then over here on our drawing page, so one of the things that's new and different about this is the ability to, we've always talked about doing the drawing first and building your quote or your proposal as you go. But sometimes, that can be a little redundant. You're having to add products to Visio, then you have to assign it to a location, or you end up assigning items to the list and then dragging and dropping it out. So with the new interface, what's really nice about this is I can actually do all this stuff here at the same time. So let me just what I'll do is clear everything out of my job here, just to show you what I mean by this. So we start off with a blank project here. So what I can do is, just like we did before with an item, I can come over here and say, okay, show me a rack. So we can just go over here, let's do a rack first. Lock this down here. We'll go here to Mid-Atlantic, just grab a rack here from our list. And so what's nice, I can assign this to the rack locations. I can even assign it to a system if we want to. And what I do is just simply drag and drop the item directly to the drawing page. So whereas we did it in the grid earlier, we can just do this straight to the drawing page. So now it's on the drawing page, and it's now sitting here in our list of materials. So you can literally now truly do both at once. So I can just drag and drop right to the drawing page, same time as actually putting it into a proposal. So it will speed things up for any of our existing AutoCAD or Visio users if they like to start with drawings first here inside the system. Really the only other major thing I want to kind of point out here on the drawing side is we did add some new shapes here in the system. I think probably one of the biggest ones to note here is on the schematic side of things. So if I come over here, let me just grab a quick product or two here. Drag this out. Actually, what I'll do, let's just add a cable. That's really the biggest thing I want to show you here. So if we go in, let's grab a cable. Now, of course, there's a lot of other features we've added here too, but so we add a cable here. So this is what it looks like by default. We did add some new right-click options. So when you right-click on an item, you can choose to show the cable details on both ends. You can actually show it on all, which does it in 3 places. And you can also show a combination of manufacturer model number and wire number. So that's all there. And that makes it easy to quickly add those tags and move those around. We've also added some new floor plan shapes as well too. So when you're adding stuff to floor plans, we'll come over here and grab a product. Just grab a speaker. As well too for this. Grab an item. Drag this on. Go ahead and add that in too. So standardized floor plan icons. We did add a few more to the library now as well, but we've now added one of the new features here is a smart rotate. So the text does float with it. You can turn that on or off if you need to, and you can also now easily color code items. So that can be done. So a few Visio shape improvements here related to this. And then another little thing too related to Visio, just for any Visio users here, you can now access when you go and click on, if you like to start with the stencil or shape first, you can actually preview those without having to right click and dive into it. So make it a little easier to access your shapes here in the list. So just a little quick touch there on Visio. So there's a few more improvements. Like I said, I don't want to go through every in and out, but that gives you a good taste of what we've got going on and how things are kind of improved here on the Visio side of things. So go ahead and close that out. So really the next major thing is kind of talk about scheduling. So we do have service orders in here, and that's also its own separate area. And of course, you still have work orders in here as well too. So kind of clean this up here. Let me open up a project. So let's say if you're working on a proposal, you can now access the scheduling part just right here. Click on Scheduling Editor, come in, create your work order. That can all be generated here. So just a different layout. A lot of the same stuff is there from the previous versions. You can still put your general information. You can assign a resource. You can choose your items here. And of course, you can still send out through Outlook. Now, once you save that, that does put the items here in a Gantt chart. So that would show up here. And there's also a built-in calendar here as well, too, still inside the system. As I mentioned, there's also service orders. So we do have those separately here. Let's get your service orders. So just a new layout here. You can quickly organize these by status. A little easier to see data here. I mentioned there's that calendar. So calendar is still here. One of the new features though with the calendar is you can still see individual calendars like you can in version 5, but we now give you the ability to merge those calendars and also toggle between what's a task versus service orders. So makes it a little easier to kind of dive down and see information here using the new calendar as well. So, yep, and of course you can still push this directly to QuickBooks. So really that's really the last major thing here. Actually, a few more things. I should kind of back up just a bit. One thing too, when I look at reports here, we've added the ability now to do report groups. Now we had report groups before, but report groups are actually now a way of actually building your own custom report. So if you've ever wanted to have a cover page, if you want to have a contract proposal, and you've had to go into the report designer and try to get those all on that same template and save it, it can be a little tricky to say the least at times. So now when you want to create a new report, you can actually just come in here and add a new report group. So we'll call this a sample packet. And you just go through and you choose all of your reports. So the huge advantage now is it actually merges all of the documents together into one fluid document. Even the page numbers are correct. So that's a huge time savings and a big help. So I can go through and I can now actually drop all these in here. I can actually organize in the way that I want to see them. So if I want to move the scope up here, then you save that, and then now I can go run a report, and now they're all grouped together into one fluid document with the correct page numbers. So that's a nice little feature too. I just wanted to point out there on the drawing side of things, on the reporting side of things. The other major thing too, just clients and contacts. One of the big differences here is now the ability to import from Excel. So if you have a huge customer list that you're never able to get into DTools because you couldn't get them and you didn't have them in Outlook or QuickBooks, you now have a new option, which is through an Excel import. The import from Outlook and QuickBooks also too is greatly improved. So as you may know, with version 5, if you want to import a customer or contact in from QuickBooks or Outlook, it's just one at a time. Now we have bulk import option, so you can bring in everybody if you want to right into the system. And clients, this whole client contact area was completely revised, so it's much easier and faster to use. So you create a contact, you can create a customer right from that, or vice versa. If you create a client, you can create a contact from that as well too. So we kind of went through that whole process and improved that to make it a little easier. So really, the last major thing here, kind of point out here. Open this up. So for any QuickBooks users, so this will just, these next few minutes here will be for you. So huge improvements on the QuickBooks side of things. You know, the whole interface was rewritten from the ground up, and we've actually streamlined the process greatly. So in version 4 and 5, you know, you would save the project, you would go to the sales order area, you would create a sales order, you would add the equipment, you would save the sales order, then you would go to the QuickBooks area, then you'd import the sales order in. So huge multi-step process just to get one order pushed over. So we've actually eliminated a lot of that. Now you just go to the QuickBooks tab here when you have a project open, and you just go and create an estimate directly from here. So this queues up. Now, there's no sales orders anymore, so that's completely gone. So you never have to create a sales order again, I promise. So it's not even a feature there. So this opens up the interface, and this does open up as a full window now, so you can see all the details. And you just come in, just do new customer, creates a customer, and of course it still creates products in here as well too. And the way that you map items and sync items has also been greatly improved as well too. So we have an area where you can go and sync products back and forth, shows you what changed in either database, so it's a lot more clear and easy to make changes or sync changes back and forth. So like I said, completely redone from the ground up. So just hit export, lets you know what estimate number is saved to, and that kind of goes back to that layout we saw earlier. So when we go back to our layout for accounting, we can now see the item has been pushed over successfully, and there's the item or estimate number that's tied to over in QuickBooks. So that's all there. So that's just some of the things. Like I said, I'm sure I probably missed some or some other big highlights or feature improvements here, but that kind of gives you a good idea. Actually, there is one other feature I should point out. Like I said, there's a ton of them, so it's hard to kind of squeeze them all into a short amount of time. But this will be the last one. So for any existing users here, this is a huge feature, is the ability to drag and drop from one project to another. So what you can do is you can actually open up two separate windows. So let me open up another project here. I think this project's actually checked out to another user, so it may not work here for us. Yeah, so we can't use that one. So let's go to plan B here. Let's actually just do a new one real quick. And you may see project template there too. That's a new feature, so you can save projects as templates. So let me just throw somebody in here real quick, save it. Here we go. So we'll go ahead and open this up. So whenever you save a project now, it does open up immediately. So now we've got our two windows here. So what I meant by drag and drop from one project to another, I could literally drag this from this project over to this new project. Now I didn't put any locations in here yet, so that's another thing that's really easy to do. So if I want to come over here and add a new one in here, I can just come in and let's just add a new building here. Let's come in, let's just right click, let's throw in a first floor, and then let's just throw in a quick room here. So go ahead and say that. So now I can actually take all the equipment from this project here. I can take which selected items, or I could do everything, and I can assign it to a location. So I can say, okay, this is going to go in the closet. I can assign it to a system, and I can just drag and drop it to this new one. So that's a big time saver there, dragging and dropping from one project to another. So you're not having to copy projects and remove a bunch of stuff out. You can actually pick what you want from the other project and even apply it to new locations at once. So very fast. And the whole system overall is extremely fast as well too. It's all built with the latest architecture. So I think you'll see a huge speed improvement as well too here with the system. So hopefully you found this video helpful. We've been getting a lot of questions on what's changed in 6, so we want to do some type of video as an overview to show you those new features. If you have any additional questions, feel free to contact your sales rep, or you can always email us at sales@d-tools.com. We'll be happy to help you and get you to the right person. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.